Right now, get up to a $15 gift card after rebate when you purchase select Superstart batteries exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, where we look at data from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I'm your host, Preston Proctor. So a couple things. With the Preds losing 3 in January, I decided not to do my playoff analysis on February 1st. I did do it about a week earlier. So I was kind of excited about the opportunity or where they might be headed, and it didn't pan out those last 3 games. So I said, well, fine, we've got this break coming up, so I would do it then anyway. So let's just wait and do the analysis at the break. That being said, let's do a quick shout out to our favorite goaltender, Jonathan Quick, the first U.S.-born goaltender to win 400 games. Congratulations, Jonathan Quick, Conn Smythe winner, starting goaltender for 2 Stanley Cup championships, backup goaltender on a 3rd. And not currently an L.A. King because we've got an idiot as president. Rob Blake sucks, and not apologizing for that. But anyway, congratulations. Yeah, 4-2 win over the Vegas Golden Knights gave him his 400th win. Yeah, so congratulations, Jonathan Quick. And so that's the Rob Blake rant. Hadn't had one of those in a while. I haven't really followed the Kings this year too much. Let's just go into the postseason watch. 51 games in. The Preds have played 51 games. There are 31 left. They have 43 points. 50 points needed for an estimated 93 points needed to make a wild card spot. So now there are only 6 games of wiggle room, which is 20% of the schedule. They have a little bit less because there's 31 games left. Since the middle of December, they're 11-10-1. That 8-game losing streak. There are 3 games remaining before the 2-week break, and I think most likely after the break I'll go back to reporting on the entire season. But we've kind of had a good run, but just couldn't quite pull it off. Couldn't score against a team who is the second worst in the league on being scored against. Could not score against them. That was disappointing. The loss to Buffalo was also very disappointing. A different way. They got down by 2 and tied it up and went ahead. Then wound up losing. So that was disappointing as well. Not nearly as disappointing as that big fat 0 against Pittsburgh, but hey, that was a back-to-back situation. The Preds to date have had 8 of those, have not done very well so far in the 8 that they've had. They've got the 9th coming up here at the end of the week. They've won 4 of the games, but both of them were in the same series. So they either win them both or lose them both. 6 times they lost them both, and twice they won them both. So they won them both against Chicago and Colorado, and then Vancouver and Calgary. So that wasn't too bad, but then they've lost the rest of them. But I don't think that same pattern will repeat itself come this weekend. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's That was the story on those games. There have been a couple of trades since then. The Rangers and Vancouver had a trade, and Vancouver and Pittsburgh had a trade. So Vancouver is making a number of moves in order, it would appear, to try to make the playoffs. I don't think they're currently in a playoff position. No, they're just out of the playoffs right now. They've got 57 points. Calgary's at 59, same games played. Colorado has played 2 more, but they're 7 points ahead, and then the Blues are 5 points behind them. So they're kind of there seems to be, like this gap. Just looking at the standings, that Vancouver could be the only team left to vie for a playoff spot in the West. That is, in the East, it's a different standing, but a different situation. Not too worried about the East right now. But so they've made a couple of trades. Dallas also made a trade with San Jose, and they got Mikael Granlund, ex-Pred, and defenseman Cody Ceci for a first-round draft pick in the 2025 and a third-round pick in the 2025. And then as far as the Vancouver Pedersons, they got Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor from the Pittsburgh Penguins for a couple of players and a first-round pick in this year's draft. That makes 3 Pettersons on Vancouver. So one of the analysts I heard I thought it was kind of funny calling them the Vancouver Pedersons. A Vancouver diving team is still what I would call them. But so the Rangers got forward JT Miller and defenseman Eric Branston and Jackson Dorrington from the Canucks. And I think the Rangers could still... Okay, so let's just go ahead. I said I wasn't going to talk about the East, but the Rangers, they're at 54 points, 5 points out of a wild card spot. 1 game less played. There's a lot of bouncing around going on, and it came up with Ottawa too, because in the Atlantic Division there are 4 teams within 2 points. So Boston and Tampa Bay at 58, Detroit at 59, and Ottawa at 60. All of those, and that would be for the 3rd spot in the Atlantic Division, with Florida at 67 and Toronto at 64. So a little bit of a gap between 3rd and 2nd. And then, definitely 4 teams that are still within striking distance there. And in the other division, there's a bit more of a gap between 3rd and 4th. Washington Capitals leading everybody in that conference. So their position above the Metropolitan does not look very dangerous at the moment. The Rangers with 54 points are just ahead of Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, both of those teams tied at 52. So it's not it's not impossible for them to come up and be a wildcard team. Or they're 10 points out of 3rd place, and that looks a little bit out of reach. Maybe 30 games left. Maybe not. Not a lot of bouncing around. Like I said, 2 weeks ago when I did the playoff analysis, Ottawa was back down in 5th place, and now they're in 3rd. So, but you could be in 6th place and just be 2 points out of 3rd. So it's not really that big of a surprise that's that kind of movement. But it did kind of catch me off guard. And so then just taking a look at this analysis, because our opponent tonight is Ottawa.
Right now, get up to a $15 gift card after rebate when you purchase select Superstart batteries exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Who, as I just mentioned, is 3rd in the Atlantic Conference. Yeah, the next 3 games for the Preds alternate home and away, home and away and home, the last 2 games being back-to-back. But Ottawa is 28-20-4, third place in the Atlantic, but their road record is 12-13-2. So they don't have a winning record on the road. They are third with 60 points, 4 behind Toronto and 1 ahead of Detroit played 1 more. 2 points ahead of Tampa Bay and Boston. Tampa Bay's played 1 less and Boston played 2 more. For them, this is the first of a 4-game road trip. They play Tampa Bay on Tuesday and then Tampa Bay on Thursday. So they have 2 games in Tampa Bay. It's convenient. You don't have to travel. And then they play Florida on Saturday. They are on a 4-game winning streak, and I believe most of that was at home. Their 4-game winning streak was their last 4 games at home. So they had a 4-game homestand, won them all: Toronto, Utah, Washington, and Minnesota. Washington and Minnesota definitely in playoff position. Toronto is too, if I remember correctly. Toronto, second in the Atlantic. Right, so then on this homestand, they beat some good teams. They were on the road for 3 before that, went 2-1, losing to Boston, the Rangers, and New Jersey Devils. So they had kind of a tough schedule, and they came through it pretty well. So now they start a road trip again, and as I said, they're not that great on the road. 12-13-2 this season. So before that 4-game winning streak, they were 5th in the Atlantic and out of a playoff spot. So just that, that's pretty tight in there. I expect those 4 spots to kind of move around quite a bit. I mean, teams don't always play every night, and another team plays and they win, and they jump ahead or fall behind, whatever. So, they do have quite a few people out. Kind of weird. A lot of people out. Some teams seem to have a lot out, some don't. But number 21 center Nick Cousins is out. He would be first in the penalty minutes for the team, except for Tkachuk has 97. So Nick Cousins is second on the team in penalty minutes with 39. 58 less penalty minutes. Tkachuk gets into a bunch of fights, it looks like. Racks them up. 10 points a game is the way it looks, so, or 10 minutes a game. And let's see. But he still leads. But as far as Tkachuk goes, he leads the team in goals. So he sits in the penalty box or gets game misconducts, whatever it is, and still manages to score the most on the team. So just because I guess he draws penalties, or maybe because he draws penalties, he seems to score. And then number 3, defenseman Nick Jensen is out. Could be back tonight. He is first in plus minus with 15. Number 73, left wing Noah Gregor is on injured reserve. He won't be back tonight. He has the second worst plus minus at minus 10. Then number 24, defenseman Jakob Bernard Docker on injured reserve, expected back after the break, the 22nd of February. Sounds like a long time, but since if they're out past this Saturday, then they're out for 2 more weeks. No notable stats for him. 17, right wing Zach McEwen out for the season. I think they said it was personal reasons. He's only played 1 game this year. And then where it gets a little questionable, number 9, center Joshua Norris is day-to-day, expected to be back today, but haven't seen that he is or isn't. And he's second in goals with 19. So he would be missed. And then Ottawa's had some real issues with having healthy goaltenders. Their starting goaltender, Linus Ullmark, number 35 goaltender, Linus Ullmark is off. Don't see him on, but he was on injured reserve long term. starting on the 30th. Expected back today, not listed. Don't expect him to be in goal. They've got 2 goaltenders that they're using, and if he's just off injured reserve, probably not going to even be the backup, would be my guess. They did recall number 51 left wing Cole Reinhardt from the Belleville Sens. So that's their one personnel change that they made for all these people that are out. People to watch, number 7, left wing Brady Tkachuk, first in penalty minutes with 97. That puts him second in the league, actually, to the Boston's defenseman Nikita Zadorov. Zadorov is 6'6", 248. Tkachuk is 6'4", 225. But yeah, left wing Brady Tkachuk, first in penalty minutes, first in goals, third in points, first in shots with 210. A lot of time in the penalty box. I didn't look far enough to see whether they were misconducts and he was out of the game, but 210 shots either way. Center Josh Norris, second in goals with 19, second in shooting percentage at 20.7%, which puts him in the top, I believe is the top 50 in the league. 19 goals on 92 shots. So that's pretty dangerous there. Center Tim Stutzel, number 18, fifth in time on ice, which makes him the leader for forwards, 19 minutes and 43 seconds. He's also first in assists with 35 and first in points with 52. He's got a pretty big advantage on both of those. So center Tim Stutzel, first in assists, third in goals, that is. And first on time on ice is Jake Sanderson, defenseman Jake Sanderson, number 85, 24-20. Third in shots with 114. So big difference between first and third, almost 100 shots. And then just to round things out, first in shooting percentage at 25%, which I think is tops in the league. Didn't look that up. 15 goals on 60 shots. I believe he has played the whole season. So 81 right wing Adam Gaudette doesn't shoot a lot, but he makes them count. So that's definitely something to worry about. Your Nashville Predators. The Predators are 18-26-7, which isn't fabulous. But at home, they are 12-9-3, a winning record. So that's great. The Preds are in 7th in the Central Division with 43 points. They are 6 points ahead of Chicago, status quo. Chicago has played one more game. They are 8 points behind Utah, who has played one more. And as I've said before, the Preds are just right there in the middle of the highway with nobody around them. And now that Buffalo beat them and has won again, they've got 4 points. They're 4 points ahead of Nashville, so they pulled ahead of them from the bottom of the league, and so there's nobody really around them at the bottom of the league and in the entire league, because next is Chicago, and then at the very bottom, the San Jose Sharks. They could be swapping positions too. San Jose is 1 point behind Chicago, but has played 2 more games, so Chicago could screw up and win one of those 2 games, and they're already ahead. So I guess they're going to stay ahead. Yeah, okay, never mind. But yeah, there's 4 points between Nashville and Buffalo, and 6 points between Chicago and Nashville. So that's the bottom of the league update for you. This game is the only one at home, a 1-game homestand, and they go to Chicago and then to Buffalo, and then 2 weeks off. Chicago and Buffalo games are back-to-back. They will be Friday and Saturday. And I guess just a quickie note. Tonight's game, for those of you that don't know, is at 6:30. So don't plan on the 7 o'clock time if you're going to the game. If you're recording it, I suppose it doesn't matter. But if you're planning on watching it live on TV, it's at 6:30. If you're planning on going to the stadium, it's a half an hour earlier than normal. The Friday's game is at 7:30, so Friday's game is going to be a half an hour later than we're used to. Tonight's game a half an hour earlier than we're used to, and then the Buffalo game right at 7. So, but the Chicago game, I guess that's on the road anyway, so it doesn't. Well, I guess if you're going to the game in Chicago, it's nice to know that it's 7:30. So there, yeah. Okay. And then we come back, and we've come back to a back-to-back too. Yeah, just all these back-to-backs. I just don't get it. We play Colorado and New Jersey back-to-back at 5 o'clock. Just checking out times. When we come back from the break, 5 o'clock games on Saturday and Sunday. Whatever. Yeah, it's a schedule. For the Preds, the personnel changes. Number 93 right wing Adam Roast has been delayed. His return has been delayed. He was supposed to be back on the 31st. Now it's at the end of the break, February 22nd. I guess that makes sense. Why come back when there's just a couple games? I don't know. And then one website says Jankowski is still out and Lazon is still an injured reserve. Lazon, even though they're on injured reserve, does say he could be back today, so I'm not sure. Jankowski's still out expected back on the 7th, so could be back for the weekend. 7th would be the Chicago, would be Friday, yeah. Let's see. Number 32, goalie Matthew Murray has been reassigned to Milwaukee. He was called up, I guess, just the other day because Saros was sick. He was ill, and he was called up on January 31st and then reassigned on the 1st. Saros, I guess, was sick for a day, but enough to bring up Matthew Murray. And should have mentioned him back earlier in Transaction Watch because he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. As he's currently making league minimum $775,000. I believe that's league minimum. But so many people are being paid that entry-level contract, I suppose. But he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And number 5, defenseman Kevin Gravel, reassigned to Milwaukee. On the players to watch, not much changed in the last 2 games. Forsberg is still leading the team in goals and assists and points and shots. And, that's the top 4, still the top 4, even in the same order for goals, assists, and points. No changes there. Blakenberg is down to 10 and his plus minus. He was in the way. One of the reasons why we gave up a goal to, I think it was it the Pittsburgh game? He kind of half acted like he was going to try to block a shot, but didn't. All he really did was keep Yossi from being able to see the shot. So yeah, it was Yossi, so it had to be Pittsburgh. Thanks, Nick. Everybody's percentages ticked down. Zvechkov still first on the team in shooting percentage at 17%, but ticked down. Stamkos is second at 15%, and O'Reilly third. So nothing new there. Still 4 players above 0 plus minus: Willsby, Gravel, and Hanostra. So as far as your home, the Preds' home stats, Preds are 12-9-3 and since overall at home, and since December 12th, they are 7-2-1 at home. Overall 11-10-1 since then, but 7-2-1 since 12-12. Okay, and so the Preds are home. So let's take a look at some of the tendencies here. Let's see. At home. So we are from the beginning of time. Nope, we are good. So since December 12th, at home, they are 5-0-1 when they get the first goal, 2-2 when they do not. Overall, 9-0-1 when they get it, and 2-10 when they do not. So in this latest stretch, the first goal is fairly deterministic. On the road, it's perfect. Get it, win, don't lose. 12 data points, but definitely a trend. So that's the first goal. So what does that say? So 10 times the Preds got the first goal, 12 times they didn't. So it's pretty. That's pretty about as even as you can get. It's been if they get it. I mean, it's a very strong. If they get the first goal, it's very strong that they're going to win, given the current stats. Everything. Exception to prove the rule has to show up. So far, I guess they did lose the one time in overtime. So not in regular time, but in overtime at home. So they did lose once after getting the first goal. And at home, 50% that they get it. On the road, it's 100% both ways. But tonight's game is in Nashville. Looking at the periods, winning by periods, at home, the Preds are 7-1-2 in the first, in the second 4-3-3, and in the third 5-3-2. So they definitely seem to be winning in the first period at home in this latest stretch. They're 7-2-1 overall, 7-1-2 in the first period. And the real question is, how does that correlate? And at home, when they win, the 7 times that they've won, they're 6-1. So that's pretty strong. A 1-0 when they lose the first period, and 0-2 when they tie it. So tying it, not a lot of data points there, but not the best result. Overall, when they win the first period during this, since the 12th, 7-2 when they win it, 1-4 when they lose it, 3-5 when they tie it. So not looking great when they tie it. At home, it looks better if they lose it than tie it, but not a lot of data points there. But that's the first period. The second period, when they've only won the second period 4 times, and all of those translated into wins, and then the losses, the 3 that they lost, 1 and 2, they won one of the games that they lost in the second period. And then of the 3 ties in the second period, they're 2-1. So that's not too bad. Those are all at home. And then let's see what the trends are down here below. So 3 times they won the first, won the second, once won the game. Once they lost the first and won the second, and they won that game. So like the winning the second period translates pretty well. When they lost the second period, that had 3 times, 1-1. When they won the game, they had won the first period and lost the second. And one time they won the first period and tied the second period. Right. And then the time that that was an overtime loss. And then when they tied the first period and lost the second, they lost that game. So not a lot of data points in that particular scenario of home. Overall, it's pretty even. All the scenarios have more than one, except losing the first, tying the second. That only happened once, and that was a loss. Tying the second period, if they, funny, if they win the first period If they tie the second period, then the game result is whatever happened in the first. So if they win, if they tie the second period, if they won the first, they win the game. If they didn't, they lose. So twice they were tied in the first, tied the second, so that was a loss. And then once they lost the first, tied the second, and lost that game. So if they tie the second period, you better hope they have won it, because that 5 times that's happened, and that's overall, not just at home. They've have enough data points to talk about that kind of thing. And then I guess third period correlations. The 5 times that they've won the third period, they have won the game. Taking out empty nets, it's still 4-0. And when they lose the third period, they're 1-2. Taking out the empty nets, they're 2-1. And then when they tie the third period, 1-1, taking out the empty nets, 1-2. So 5-0 when they win the third period, 4-0 when they win the second period. So 6-1 when they win the first. So definitely winning a period helps. Winning a period. So when if you don't win a period, guess what? You don't win, and so that's not good. Periods when they lose 2 periods, they're 0-8. If they win 1 period, they're 2-3. So it's not the best record. Win 2 periods, they're 5-0. Win 3 periods, they're 4-0. Yeah. So if you win 3 periods, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way to lose the game if you win 3 periods, because if you win the 3 regulation periods, you win the game. If you win 2 and you go to overtime, and then the third game would either be overtime or the shootout, and so then so winning 3, you're going to win the game. So in the stretch since the December 12th. They've won all 3 periods 4 times and had only lost 3 periods once. So that's pretty good. When you win 0 periods, they're 0-8. So that's happened 8 times. So of the number of times that they have done one of those circumstances, winning 0 periods is the highest. So they've won 0-8, they've won 1-5, 2-5, and 3-4 times. Boy, that's ugly. Periods lost, pretty high too, 7 times. This is overall statistics since the 12th of December. 7 times they've lost 0 periods. So 7 times they've lost 0, and 8 times they've won 0. Wow. The math can't add up. 8, 13, 21, 22. It adds up. That's crazy. Won 0 and lost 0, tied 0. 8, 7, and 8, 15, 23. Now that math doesn't add up. I'm going to have to check on that. 8, 18, 22. 8, 7, 8. Anyway, so those numbers, that's crazy. That is just crazy. Winning 1 period, 2 and 3. So winning 2 periods, 5-0. Losing 2 periods, 0-8. Yeah, so the periods lost for the Preds, 7 times they lost all 3. Periods lost 0. periods lost 0, so they won all 3. And then 6 times they lost 1, 8 times they lost 2, once they lost all 3. So yeah, those numbers are that's kind of crazy. The fact that that overall they've of winning 1-3 or 0-3 periods, that the most thing that occurs is winning 0 is, wow, that's just bizarre. But that's what the numbers. That's the numbers. I am gonna have to go back and check that because it doesn't necessarily add up, but it's close. It's off by 1 somehow. I'm just that column: periods tied, periods lost, periods won, 0. Anyway, I have to rethink that. Periods lost 0, periods won 0, periods tied 0. Well, there's only 22 games. Okay, but the numbers add up across from 0 to 3, right? Yeah, 22. Yeah, 22, 22. So okay. Wow, that's still pretty crazy. All right, winning goal. Still solidly second period. Neither of the last 2 games that was the case. Not surprising. Buffalo and Pittsburgh both give up a lot of goals and score a lot of goals, and so the winning goal being in the third period against Buffalo was not terribly surprising. And the winning goal being in the first period of the Pittsburgh game, that was kind of a shocker. But still 45% of the time since December 12th, the winning goal is in the second period. Wow, when the Preds win, 45% of the time they get the goal in the second period. When the Preds lose, 45% of the time the opponents get it in the second period. At home during the stretch for the Preds winning, they got 30% of the times the goal in the second period and 30% of the time in the third. And for the opponents, 29% in the second and third, and that's at home. And just looking down here, when the home team wins, 40% of the time they're getting the goal in the second period, which is also still the highest. And for the road team, getting the winning goal 57% of the time, it's been in the second period. So definitely a big push or big stats to say that, for this season, the winning goal primarily in the second period. And last season, let's see, I went back and I looked at this was the new. And the home win, when the home team won 50% of the time, it was in the second period. But when the opposition won 43% of the time, it was in the third period. So that was more likely that the opposition would win the game in the third period, get the winning goal in the third period, but the home team would get the winning goal in the second period. That was kind of fun because with the Preds, when they were on the road, the opponents never scored the winning goal in the first period last year. That was also kind of a crazy number to see. So looking from the beginning of time, all season long, 37% of the time the winning goal has been scored in the second, followed closely 27% in the third. At home for the Preds, it does change a little bit, the winning goal being scored 29% of the time in the third period to 25 in the second, 6 versus 7. And then going down here and looking when the home team wins, a third of the time it has been the home team has got the winning goal in the second period, and 44% of the time when the road team wins, they're getting the winning goal in the second period. So it's still looking, pretty pretty strong to the winning goal occurring in the second period. Okay, special teams. We did see a little bit different scenario with Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh, I thought they got one of their goals on a delayed penalty, and but I did not see that show up on shift chart. I swear I need to go back and rewatch that game. Because in this particular game, Pittsburgh, it looks like the Preds had that was not a shorthanded goal. Oh, there we go. Just after, not shorthanded. Well, that would explain that. Okay, so yeah. They got an empty net, and then they got it just after a continuation goal, right? So I had my number in the wrong place. But yeah, so that's good because that's kind of a good trend. I like that trend. This means you got to play better on your special team situations. The teams that play well in special teams are the teams that win games. Speaking of winning games, let's look at the matchup for tonight. I was looking at the goals scored by Ottawa, and it made me curious. It made me curious because the number of goals that Ottawa scored. I don't know why this jumped out at me. I think what jumped out to me was that Ottawa had scored more goals than has been scored against them. Now, it's not much. 8 goals versus 31 for the Preds have been scored more against, 31 goals scored more against. And so I said, okay, fine, let's look at the teams that are in playoff positions, and let's look and see how their goals for compares to the goals against. Because I thought, oh, that looks kind of interesting here. And it turns out that the top 12 teams in goals scored, goals for, are all in playoff positions. And they all have more goals for than goals against. And then in 13, well, actually, that's not quite true. Columbus, that's what I meant. Columbus has the same number of goals for and goals against. They are in playoff position. And 13th, 14th, and 15th in goals for is Buffalo, Seattle, and Pittsburgh. Now, all three of those have more goals against than goals for. And then the other teams that are currently in playoff positions are Minnesota in 16th, Ottawa in 21st, our opponent tonight, and the Kings in 28th in goal scoring. Now, they still have more goals scored for than scored against. And the last team in playoff position is Calgary, who's 29th in scoring goals. And they have more against than goals for, and that's by 14. There's 14 more goals scored for than against, but they are the second in the wild card team, and so I started looking to see, okay, which of the teams that are in the West have a better ratio, I guess would be the way to put it. And it looks like Utah actually is at a differential of 8, and they're 24th in scoring in the league. So, yeah, kind of interesting. If you score more goals for than against, you're in the playoffs. There you go. That's all you got to do. Score more. And that's overall. So that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean that you can't be scored against, but it looks very, very strong that if you have more goals for than goals against, you're in the playoffs. The Preds have a differential of 31. which may not be the highest differential. I didn't look at that, but yeah. So that was the interesting thing that I found with the goal scoring. Now, as I said, Ottawa. Well, I guess they moved from 21st to 22nd because today other people scored. So they're 22nd in league in scoring. They score, and they're in the bottom half of the league in all three periods, scoring 4. They score 44, 49, and 48, very similar to the Preds, 43, 43, 45. No, fairly even distribution across there. Scoring just about the same in all the different periods. Scoring against, the Ottawa has given up 25 less goals, 38 in the first. That makes them 27th in the league in goals against, so that's pretty good. The Preds are 21st, so the first goal, they're pretty stingy. And then Ottawa gives up 41 and then 57 in the third, so they give up a lot more of their goals in the third period. Still in the bottom half of the league, 16th in the third period, so right at the cut line in goals against in all 3 periods. So as far as goals for and goals against, that's not as far as the league goes, they're not one of the higher scoring teams, and they're not they're not a team that gives up a lot of goals. So it's kind of a surprise for a team in playoff position in the East, but that's where it is. The Preds give up 42 in the first, 60 in the second, and 55 in the third. The 60, interesting, the 60 in the second is 8th in the league, 8th most in the league. And Ottawa is 30th in the league in the second period. Now, those 5 goals from 60 to 55, moving from the second to the third period for the Preds, drops them into the bottom half of the league. So at 55 goals given up in the third period, they're 19th. And 57 for Ottawa is right on the cut line again. So league-wide, appears that more goals are scored against in the third period. Not for, but against. Who are they scoring them on? Okay. Anyway, the penalty situations, the power play, Ottawa's 9th, 23.4%. Every time I saw the Preds go to the penalty box the other night, I cringed. They did not have a power play. They did call a penalty against Pittsburgh finally, but they did not. The Preds did not have a power play. I'm not saying they should have. It's just they didn't. But Ottawa's power play is 9th with 23%. Nashville is 19th at 21%, so just 2% difference. Ottawa's had a lot more opportunities than the Preds, 24 more. They've had 171 opportunities and scored 40 times on them. The Preds have had 147 opportunities, scored 31. In the penalty kill, the Preds are still in the top of the league, 7th at 82.2%. And Ottawa is 17th, so about middle of the league at 78.8%. Goals against for Ottawa is 32 on 151 opportunities, and the Preds have 27 goals against in 152, so about the same number of opportunities. The Preds have given up 5 less goals, so that's a little bit more than 16 16%, but 16% of that, 6 of 27, I guess, or 5 of 27. So that's a little bit better than 20%. Yeah, so that's the power play penalty kill. So would not want to give Ottawa too many opportunities on the power play, and they could give up as many penalties as they want because the Preds don't seem to like to score regardless. Yeah. It's hard to score on the power play if they're not calling penalties against the other team. Just saying. I don't really like seeing penalties. I mean, they happen, but it's nice for the game flow just to keep going. I think that's less stoppages makes for an more exciting game. So momentum, Ottawa is on a 4-game winning streak, 7-2-1 in their last 10. Nashville is on a 4-game losing streak, 5-5 in their last 10. So two teams kind of headed in a different direction. Both streaks are either going to end or be extended. The symmetry there is just a little too goofy. Goaltenders, who we're going to see tonight. Ottawa has played 4 goaltenders this year. They did get Linus Ullmark from Boston in the offseason. He's been injured. He has the most starts. He's 12-8-2, starting a little bit more than Anton Forsberg, who was his backup, 7-9-1, who has also been injured quite a bit. So they have had to recall Levi Merilainen, who is 8-3-1. He was recalled on December 27th, and then Mads Søgaard recalled on 12/27 as well. So they called up 2 of their goaltenders. Forsberg was on IR on the 28th of December, and Ullmark was on IR since the 7th, but he hasn't started since mid-December. So I think his injury probably actually happened back mid-December, and then or sometime in late December, Forsberg got a lot of playing time, and then they called up the 2 goaltenders. So kind of their goaltending situation has been a little weird. After Forsberg went out, they had 5 games that they played with Merilainen and Søgaard, and they were 2-3 in that stretch. So I guess that, for calling 2 people up and playing in the NHL, I guess winning 2 is it's not too bad. Since January 3rd, Forsberg's first start after injured reserve, Merilainen has gotten the most work, which seems a little weird. It does look like Forsberg is working back into the goaltending a little bit more, kind of alternating games mostly. So Forsberg and Merilainen are the 2 goaltenders that they are that are getting the work right now. But Ullmark is off injured reserve. I don't think he's going to be even a backup tonight, but I guess we'll see. He was in goal earlier this year against Nashville. Last year against Nashville, Ottawa had Korpisalo in goal for both of those games. So he's not with the team this year. Last year it was Korpisalo and Forsberg. Forsberg got 30 games played, 30 results last year. And so then who's going to be in goal? All this comes to who are we going to see tonight? Well, Merilainen played last versus Minnesota, so I would say Forsberg in goal versus Nashville, and I would even guess that if Ullmark is is able to play, he would be the backup. So I think either way, Forsberg is who we're going to see in goal. And then Ullmark will probably make the trip to Florida and play against Tampa Bay in one of those, but we don't care because we're not Tampa Bay and we're not Ottawa. But yeah, so I think tonight it's going to be Forsberg in goal. For Nashville, UC Saros, 11-21-6, playing 2 or 3 for 1 of Justus Annunen, who's 6-3-0. Last year against Ottawa, Saros was in goal for both games. Earlier this year, Saros was in goal. Colorado was 2-0 versus Ottawa last year, and Annunen was in goal for the second game, a 7-4 victory. So he has experience against Ottawa last year with Colorado. Saros was in goal versus Pittsburgh. Annunen was in with Buffalo. Saros would get this. Saros playing tonight would be 2 in a row, and so I believe it's going to be Ottawa. It's going to be Ottawa. Yeah, it's going to be Ottawa tonight, and Saros will be in goal for Pittsburgh, for Nashville. Sometimes just talk too much. Yeah, so that's the goaltender situation. As far as the way Nashville has played Ottawa, this is the second game of 2 versus Ottawa, the only one in Nashville. Ottawa did win at home 3-1. Last year, Nashville was 1-1 against Ottawa. The home team held serve last year, so hopefully that trend will stay this year. Nashville lost in Ottawa 3-4 in overtime and won in Nashville 4-1. So last year, the winning team got 4 goals. That trend didn't hold forward this year with Ottawa winning 3-1. Interesting, last year they played in Ottawa and then Nashville, and that's the same way they're doing it this year. Most of the time you see in the schedule, whatever order they played. One year they switch it from year to year, but it's the same. It doesn't matter. It's a schedule. Last year, Nashville got the first goal in both, but they were 1-1. They did not get the first goal against Ottawa earlier this year. Last year, 1-1 versus Ottawa. In periods, they won 4 of the periods, lost 2, tied 1 because it did go to overtime. And this year, they did not win any period. They only lost 1 and tied 2. So that is how the earlier games went this season. And players to watch, reminder for players to watch, number 7, Tkachuk. Definitely need to watch him. I would say 81, Gaudette. Very dangerous when he shoots the puck. And Stutzel. Number 18, Stutzel. Tim Stutzel. So trying to keep it, 18, 81, and 7. 18, 81, and 7. So that's your players to watch tonight in the game at 6:30 Central Time. 6:30 Central Time here in Nashville. So don't go to the game thinking it's at 7. I think I did that once. I got there and the game was already going. I'm like, oh, crap. So 6:30 tonight, Ottawa is in town. One game only to play, the Nashville Predators. The Predators will be ending their 4-game losing streak and starting a winning streak that will extend beyond this 2-week break after these 3 games. So that is what you should be looking for. And I am Preston Proctor. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Predators Proclivity.